Welcome to they are now 6 and 10 edition of Sharing Sox. I'm Southside Sox duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son, and right now downtown Chicago correspondent Will, still in Chicago in the Cherry Orchard at the Goodman Theatre. And we're actually going to the game. We're recording this on Tuesday, the 18th, and we're going to the game on the 19th. I want to get in the disclaimer first. Purchased through third party, no money to Jerry. Taking the red line to the game, no parking. Eating lunch before we go for a 110 game. No purchase of food, and we hope beverage. And the weather's supposed to be okay that we don't need hot chocolate or ice something. So we'll see if we can go without putting a penny in Jerry's pocket. I don't expect we'll have a lot of other folks with us there on a weekday game in April. They never are, except for opening day. So, and we will get to see how much the crowd boos our lowlife acquisition because he's going to be on the mound.
I'm not sure the crowd will boo him. I don't think there's going to be enough people to really get that going. And
well, well, there won't be many, and I also wonder whether to the casual fan or sort of middling fan has as much of a feeling about this as those of us who are intense fans do.
no, they don't. They probably
They may
don't
not
even
even
know
know.
that much about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure.
And we have even more soap opera. We'll see if he uses Gold Digger by Kanye West as his walk-up song again, as he had last Friday.
Classy guy. Classy guy.
Classy, no end. And then when asked about it, basically tells the reporter to go himself. And we'll see if by tomorrow he has enticed any more teammates to go on Instagram and like all of Olivia Feinstein's pictures. I'm not on any social media. I'm not on Instagram. Quickly, we'll do this. We want to get to baseball, but Oscar Colas does all these likes, and she gets really ticked off and says, "Might get him off here." Would Oscar be able to even do? I mean, I don't think he's incapable technologically, but he's picking her out of, I guess, hundreds of thousands of pictures of attractive young females. How would he do that if he doesn't have somebody telling him how to find her?
I mean, there's all sorts of ways. I think none of that is worth looking into.
Okay.
Personally, Oscar Colas's social media life is probably not something we need to super care
No,
about at this point.
I really think he was. I just think he was put up to it. I don't care what he does, but
Even if he was, and maybe he wasn't. Who knows? Who knows? Who cares?
meanwhile, baseball, unfortunately. Well, the fortunate thing is with the postponement of Monday night's game, we have a doubleheader today and a game we're going to on Wednesday against a team that's doing equally poorly, 6 and 10 record. If anything, more disappointing with the White Sox. They were coming from a World Series team, were expected to be good. And
Also injury rattled, though. Also extremely injury rattled team.
their big injury is so huge with Bryce Harper. And Schwarber and Real Muto were doing horribly until the last few games. So they seem to be coming out of their starting
Well,
slump. So
losing Reese Hoskins for your whole
and
season.
Hoskins, yeah.
While
Yeah.
Reese isn't an elite player by any means, he certainly was a vital part of the World Series run. So that's a huge hit. That's a huge hit. That's
That has him looking at Harper as a possible first baseman.
He's been taking first base reps. He's been doing well. I think we're going to see him come back sooner rather than later as a first baseman. He'll probably just play first base for most of this season, I think. I don't know that we'll see him in the outfield again this year. But getting him at first base, Harper's an elite player. He'll be fine at first. And just getting his bat back in the lineup is all the Phillies, really need to care about. So I still think it's going to be a minute, but the fact that he's actually practicing at first base and taking those reps, he will be back, I think, sooner than the original sort of August prediction If he were playing in the outfield, I think we definitely wouldn't see him till the end of the summer. But now I think we might see him back a little earlier. And with a guy like Harper, that's good for baseball. So I hope he's recovering and gets back out there. I'm glad we won't have to see him tomorrow. I think tomorrow when we go to that game, they have a doubleheader today, including a night game. Tomorrow, you and I might see a minor league baseball game. I think there is a good chance we are going to see two somewhat major league pitchers and then a ton of just any scrub we have is going to be out on the field tomorrow.
Well, it's only scrubs in the bullpen for both teams. The White Sox, of course, have by far the worst bullpen in the majors. I think the ERA is pushing to 7.5 now. And they walked 26 guys in 3 games against Baltimore. Walked 26 and hit one in the head, so that ups the free passes a little. There was a piece last week in the Defender on how the White Sox are the most dangerous team in baseball, both to opponents and themselves. And after that, they hit a guy in the head.
The thing
none of it's intentional. That's just the way it goes.
I did a little research while we're kind of comparing them to other teams in terms of pitching, and I kind of looked around all the good teams. They all have at least some starter who's averaging over 6 innings a game. We have a starter who's our best starter's averaging around 5.1 innings per game. And for the most part, and of course, if you don't look at Cease and don't look at Voldemort, our other 3 starters are sitting comfortably in the 6 to 7 ERA range, which is also
they're FIPs with the exception of Lynn, but Giolito has a decent FIP in the 3s, and most of the rest of the starters do. They're right in that same range. Even Cease, who is not sharp his last time out at all. But they're bringing up a 27th man because when you get the doubleheader, you get to bring up a guy. And I forget the guy's name. That's how impressed I was. But in Charlotte, he has walked 7 guys in 7 1/3 innings this year. So he's going to fit right in with the rest of the
yeah.
With Phillies, where you got to get in here, they have the worst bullpen in the National League. So it's a real big mashup. It could be a 15-14 game before it's done.
Absolutely. I mean, we could start this game on pace for it to be 2 hours and 5 minutes and then end with a 3.5, 4-hour game because these bullpens are going to get absolutely lit up, except for the fact that there might only be 3 major league hitters playing in the game tomorrow. So I'm not sure exactly what will happen there. But we are seeing 2 very struggling, horrible pitching staffs going at it tomorrow, which can be fun for the fans. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure we'll get Jake Burger tomorrow. And Jake Burger is currently the hottest bat in Major League Baseball. 4 home runs through just 8 games. His touched bases is 1 behind second on the team, despite having played half the games. So Jake is pretty hot right now.
Well, the race is an interesting. Now, we'll have Jake the rest of the week because Moncada's on the IL until at least, I think, after the weekend or in the middle of the weekend somewhere. He could come off, not necessarily that he will. But an interesting thing with Eloy back off the IL and hitting miserably. He's hitting 161. His OPS plus is 36. And he's not getting better. Sunday, he struck out 4 times, 4 at-bats, and looked really bad in all of them. So you've got for the position, this is the roster setup that Sox have suffered from in recent years, but now even with Jose gone, they got the same thing. Your best hitter on the team is Jake Burger. Now he's going to stay at third base, but when Moncada comes back,
and he's also not going to be the best hitter on the team for all that long.
No,
I think
teams are going to pay more attention to how to pitch to Jake Burger, and it'll slow down. But still,
credit where credit's due, though. Jake Burger has come up and done a spectacular job filling in. This is a guy who's constantly fighting to get to stay on a big league roster, and he
gets hurt a lot.
He is doing everything he can to stay in the show.
except catch the ball. He's not hasn't gotten that part down yet.
But outside of Luis this season, no one catches the ball, so we don't really like have to worry about that.
Benintendi
Right?
catches the ball, but
In left field, in left field. Come on,
okay. Well,
anyone
let's go to
crediting a
this.
left fielder
Yeah,
with being good is,
the hottest hitters on the team are Jake Berger, Sebi Zavala. He's off on his own. He's fine in the position where he's in, and Gavin Sheets and Luis. And Luis, we know, is playing center field, so
yeah.
that's not a question.
Luis, who by the way is 15 total bases ahead of the second person on the team. So Luis is back to a type of Luis Robert Jr. that we wanted and we're hoping to see. His center field so far is Gold Glove caliber.
Oh, incredible!
Honestly, no one's close. He has been far and away the most elite outfielder this year in terms of catching the ball, and that is just great to see. It's kind of the one truly shining thing that we can latch ourselves to at this point in the season is seeing Luis Robert Jr. be the player that we thought he could be and know that he could be.
And
I have a question for you though about this. So I'm not changing topic. You started by talking about Eloy and how poorly he's hitting. Why do you think that is? Because Eloy is we've always had, and still, of course, we don't even have questions about his fielding anymore. Actually, we just know about his fielding. But hitting, I mean, this is a guy who is actually an elite major league hitter.
Has been, yes.
Yeah, which tells you he's capable of it. He's still only 14 years old, so he's not out of his prime by any means. What do you think is going on there? Do we think it's injury based or?
Well, but the injury was a minor hamstring issue, which you don't really see that as influencing striking out every time you're up. It's hard to say. I mean, everybody slumps. I'm sure Babe Ruth slumped and Ty Cobb slumped and so on. But boy, it's bad. Really,
it's really bad, and it's.
I wonder if, and of course, is it mental that he's now not the left fielder? He was the left fielder in DH. Sometimes he doesn't like DHing. He hit fine when he was DHing, so there weren't statistics to look at in prior years ago. Well, he doesn't really hit if he's on the bench in between. He did fine. In fact, he may have been a little higher DHing than in left. Is he disappointed so much that he's not going to be playing in the outfield much? And they say once or twice a week. That would be.
Well, if that's the case, you've got no one to blame but Eloy, because it's a team sport. You need to be fine with playing the part of the role in the team picture that has been assigned to you. Eloy, at this point, if this is coming out of just being disappointed he's not playing left field, I love Eloy. My message to you is suck it up and hit the ball, man, because you're throwing away the only thing you got if it's because of that. And I realize that's disappointing, but also you're still playing Major League Baseball. You're still getting the opportunity to get paid millions of dollars just to swing the bat. Get up there and swing the bat. So I think it's something else. And
well, it can always be, as they say, a game of adjustments as the league figured something out.
Sure.
That's another possibility. That's a bad one.
Is he not hitting something that he formerly was hitting at least okay, so that they would have to give him the occasional pitch he wants to see? And now are we looking at a situation where they know exactly what to throw to him because he is not hitting a certain ball? From what I've watched in highlights, it looks like anything you throw him, he's not really hitting. So
yeah, high fastballs, off the plate sliders.
Yeah, which of course are the hardest pitches to hit for a guy like that. But they've been throwing Eloy high fastballs, and they've been throwing him off the plate sliders. He doesn't hit the off the plate sliders, of course, but he's been a guy who can put the bat on a high fastball. Fastball speeds seem to be a little lower than they were previously overall. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but I do know that
does he need time to get ready in the batter's box?
which could be it. He was definitely a step out and wind up kind of guy, not a Nomar Garcia Parra by any means, but he was a guy who took his time, and maybe the you have to be ready after 8 seconds is something that's throwing him off. Can't give him a pass on that, though, because everybody has to do it, and other hitters seem to be doing just fine with the 8 second ready and facing the pitcher adjustment. I can't give anyone a free pass for that kind of stuff. Everyone has to do it. Shift stuff certainly isn't playing a part in this in
No,
any
he's
way, shape,
right-handed,
or
so it's
form.
not a big deal.
Yeah, he's not a lefty. They're not shifting him in any way that is more interesting than they've shifted him in the past. He is, I think, just what we would call off to a very slow start. I don't
say that. Yeah.
It's we're 16 games in. We really know nothing about how this season is going to shape up at this point. I am still a firm believer that Eloy is going to figure it out and is going to start mashing the ball. And I do think that Eloy is one of those guys where once he has a good game, he's going to be set after that. But he really needs to have a great game at the plate. And, these next few days is a great opportunity for that because he's going to be facing really bad pitchers. He's going to be facing a lot of minor league pitchers. He's going to be facing a bullpen that can't get anybody out. So I do think there's a possibility.
He's facing one excellent, really. Zach Wheeler's not off to a great start, but he's an excellent pitcher.
For sure.
Taijuan Walker's pretty good. In between, they've got a rookie who's been hammered pretty hard, so that would be a chance to do it. Yeah, it's good to do it now because after the Phillies, who are, again, playing very badly, it's Tampa Bay, Toronto, Tampa Bay for 10 games.
Well, Tampa Bay hasn't done anything this season.
Well, they've lost 2 games lately. What the heck?
They're only on pace to win 140. Which I know can't happen.
Well, of course, the Sox are on pace to lose 100, so we shouldn't get into that.
Perfect. Yeah, that lines up perfectly. I do want to talk about these upcoming series, but let's just take our break here real quick before we dive into that. We will be right back on Sharing Sox. Welcome back to Sharing Sox. We somewhat dissected. It was more of a broad wash of miserable. As we head into Game 17.
I didn't even get a chance to get into the fact that once again, the Sox are 29th in baseball at swinging at pitches outside the zone, which is why they're also 28th now in walks.
Why is that not getting better?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it. Well, it's got to be. They don't have play discipline, but they will. We got to work on it. It's been years. It's year after year after year.
Years, and there's new guys telling them what to do differently.
Different guys, different managers, and they swing at everything. And it's the only team worse
is my Tuesday night softball team. That's the only team worse.
Is that the Tigers?
No, my Tuesday night softball team, the Rebel Alliance, swings at every first pitch. If I'm not playing and taking a walk from the leadoff spot, which, by the way, gives me no pride in slow pitch softball, but it's the only thing I can do to get these guys not to swing at the first pitch every single time, is to go up there and be like, look, they don't throw strikes most of the time in this league. But go ahead.
But at any rate, it's the Tigers, and it was last year. The only team down with them in the walks level and also in the O swings. It's the total lack of plate discipline, and the Tigers are
all 21 years old. That's the other thing. Yeah, or 50, or 55, 60. But yeah, it's absolutely absurd that we are still talking about how the White Sox swing at every single pitch. And you would think that the pitching staff at the White Sox would say, look, guys, we actually don't throw a lot of balls in the strike zone. So maybe go up there thinking you're not going to see a ton of pitches in the strike zone because we throw 100 pitches every 4 innings, which tells you that they're not all strikes. So maybe go up there and look at a couple pitches before swinging away. It's maybe the thing about the White Sox that is confusing me the most right now is the fact that I haven't looked at the stats on this, so it's possibly not, but in my watching point of view, have gotten worse at taking walks, or at least worse when it comes to swinging at terrible pitches. Like they're
Yeah,
swinging at stuff that's not close.
yeah. And it's not just sliders that fool them.
Right.
And of course, one of the main offenders on this is Luis, who took his first walk on Sunday, I think, of the
Well,
season.
if you're going to hit three something and then you're going to be on base and you're going to have 37 total bases after 16 games, you are the one guy who I'm going to be like, all right, go for it. Do your thing. Clearly, walking is not going to be it, which is a shame because he's a base stealing threat, and especially now, even more of a base stealing threat. But I just truly am at a loss on what's going on with hitting coaching at the White Sox right now, which is going to get worse
And
as
we've
we go
changed
in.
hitting coaches. I mean, it's been multiple hitting coaches through this series and multiple managers, multiple everything, and nothing seems to change. Uh,
And now we're about to go up against two teams, Tampa, Toronto, and Tampa, that are absolutely going to take advantage of that. They are sitting there, those pitching staffs are sitting there going, well, I don't know if I have to throw a strike this week, which is kind of nice because I can just throw the ball and the White Sox are going to swing at it. And Tampa Bay is a team that is expert at looking at cracks in other teams and figuring out that's how they win. They don't win because they're mashers. They don't win because they are loaded with stars. Although now they have a couple guys who are stars and Wander Franco and Randy Rosarena. But, you know, they are a team that wins because they find the fault in your game. They don't necessarily just excel at the game of baseball in other ways. They're going to eat the White Sox alive if the White Sox do not start taking pitches. And Toronto, of course, good pitching staff, an
well, and
offense
the,
that
the
can just
reverse of that is
explode.
since the White Sox walk more than anybody else except one team in baseball, is not only will they not throw strikes to the White Sox if the White Sox swing at anything that comes up there, they're not going to swing at all the balls being thrown by our pitchers who cannot for the life of them throw strikes.
Which
26
does
walks and a hit batsman in 3 games.
that does bring me to the main thing I wanted to talk about today, which is the Ethan Katz experiment over?
You know, I think both of us were huge fans of having Ethan Katz come in.
Of
Uh,
course.
Hugely supportive of Katz through, is it 3 years now? Uh, I don't know. Uh,
I mean,
is
3 years is a decent sample size.
certainly Ethan Katz isn't going out there and saying to the pitching staff, uh, no, I don't throw any strikes. Just go ahead and walk as many people as you can because that tires them out. I don't know. They're not getting clobbered. I mean, they are getting clobbered, but the bases are loaded when they get clobbered because of the walks. Uh, I mean, that's an interesting question. I wondered about it. I've seen comments on our site and similar sites. People going,
Here's what
well,
I'll ask you then. Here's what I'll ask you then. Why is the Ethan Katz experiment not over? That's silence. That is stumped silence you're hearing. There's
it
not been a
is.
glitch in the recording.
Is it the problem that Katz is not coaching them well, or that these are pitchers who don't throw very well in the first place, particularly the bullpen?
But they can all throw strikes. They're major league pitchers. They know where the strike zone is. They can all throw strikes. And I agree. Of course, Ethan Katz is not going up there and saying, don't throw strikes to these guys. I'm sure Ethan Katz is saying something to the opposite. But why isn't Ethan Katz saying, just try to throw the ball down the middle every time? Just see what happens. Just throw the ball in the zone every time and just see what happens. Because the walks, the hit by pitches are a fluke. I mean, that just happens. Ball gets away from guys. It sucks, but it happens. The walks are not a fluke. The walks are bad pitching. And when I was a pitcher back in the day, there is nothing I hated more than letting a guy go to first base for free. I can't think of it. If a guy hit a home run off of me, it was like, all right, I got beat. When you're walking someone, you're not getting beat except for on the rare occasion that you have, a 10 pitch at bat where a guy's fouled off five and one gets away from you. Yeah, that is a scenario where you can get beaten into a walk. We're not seeing that. We're just seeing guys get free passes.
As we've talked about many times before, it's not just the walks either, because it's the pitching inefficiency that takes more pitches per inning for the White Sox than anybody else, because everything's a 3-2 count. Even if they come back and get the guy, you've used up 6 pitches.
At least. I mean, that's if no one fouled one off,
Yeah.
And you can't be doing that. You can't be going 6-7 pitches deep on every batter and be a team that wins Major League Baseball games. I obviously don't have the history of those stats, but I have to assume that teams that throw 7 pitches to every guy are not winning baseball teams. I just have to assume that. When you're talking about a situation where your starters pretty much have to be out of the game by at best the 6th, you can't win games like that. To me personally, the Ethan Katz experiment is over. And I'm sure some people are going to hear this and think that's ridiculous, but I actually don't think that many people are going to hear this at this point and think that's ridiculous. You are talking about a guy who's had 3 years with the same guys, a lot of them. It's not like we had Katz and now our pitching staff is a totally different group of guys. I mean, in the Katz tenure, it's been Lynn, Cease, Giolito, Kopech. And Kopech's been hurt for a lot of it, but still, we've had a decent sample size of Kopech pitching under Katz. And the bullpen has been a lot of the same guys. Now, there have been new ones throughout the way, but, we don't have a ton of guys in our bullpen this year who weren't in our bullpen last year. And then from last year, we don't have a ton of guys who weren't in the bullpen the year before, or at least on the team the year before and on the pitching staff. When does this experiment become a success? Are we talking about 6 years in saying Ethan Katz really turned this around, but it was bad for 5 years? And I'm not hating on Katz. I think Katz is still a valuable pitching coach in a lot of ways, but it seems like the fit just clearly isn't right.
Well, what he was really good at is and worked brilliantly with Giolito, worked brilliantly with Carlos Rodon, worked pretty well till this year with Reynaldo Lopez, is getting guys to shorten up their delivery, use more lower body and less motion so that you're more repeatable on every pitch. That's his whole shtick, and it's a good shtick. It's an excellent shtick.
But we're also seeing that across the majors. We're seeing that across the majors.
Other guys have picked up on what he did, because he was with the Giants, and he's been other places.
And also, I'm not giving him any credit for Carlos Rodon. I'm sorry, Rodon was a hurt guy, and ended up being as good as we thought he would be.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was incredible at it, but I still remember looking at the videos that was on the Seattle Mariners site of SB Nation, where the guy broke down plus before and after through series of things, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Rodon's going to be bad," and showed what was different in his delivery, and his delivery changed, and it was on purpose, and it was done that way. And Katz did a great job with that. If what you're doing is getting people to shorten their delivery and to cut down on excess motion and making sure they're repeating everything, so you're not giving away any pitches, that doesn't explain why they're walking everybody.
Your accuracy should be better.
Your accuracy has to improve.
And just to clarify this to people, most people don't watch this broadcast. So to the 10 people who watch it, but also to the people who listen to it, That is a big thing to go from the big. So back in the day, they taught a big sweeping arm motion and getting that extension all the way back. So they were actually teaching a longer motion for quite a while in baseball, because the longer that journey you have, theoretically, the more steam you're going to pick up. Well, that teaching has changed a lot and has now gone to use your legs, keep that really short. When I was pitching, they didn't want you short arming ever. But players are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger now. So you can do that. And what that should allow you to do is, by eliminating all of this space that the arm is taking up on that delivery, it should give you pinpoint control. That's the reason guys, high school pitchers, would start short arming. Was, it turns you from at that time, the logic was you go from being a pitcher to a thrower, and you would shorten up just to be like, I just got to get the freaking ball in the zone, so I'm going to shorten up. And it allows you to do that. Now you're going to get hit because we hadn't figured out how to pitch as well with the short arm. They figured that out now, and the short arming is absolutely helpful. But what you're saying is 100% correct. The short arming is designed to allow for consistency, but we're actually seeing the opposite of that for the White Sox. We're seeing it as a whole in baseball, kind of the opposite of that, but we're really seeing it from the White Sox, that they have shortened up in the way that should allow you to pretty much pinpoint where you are sending the ball every time, and they are not hitting spots. They are not even close to hitting spots. Even on some, good strikeouts we've seen, you see Sebi set up high and inside, and they're getting the guy on a low outside pitch. That's just pure luck that you have misplaced a ball so horribly, and you still get a strikeout. I get it. Strikeouts are important. That looks good on the page, but that's actually really bad, because this short arm delivery should be allowing you to pinpoint a high fastball perfectly almost every single time. The other thing it does is it should mask what kind of pitch you are throwing. We've had some issues with some theoretical tipping pitches this season. I'm not sure I'm really buying into a lot of that. But what we are seeing is they're not fooling a lot of people. Outside of Cease when he's hot, which he has not super been this season, but he's been okay. And Voldemort, I think his success has just been pure early season luck. I think we're going to see that fade violently.
Yeah,
violently. That is going to be
great defense, and his FIP is in the high threes. So
yeah, that's not going to happen. But I think what we are learning, unless we see a pretty drastic turnaround over the next couple months, is that the Ethan Katz experiment is kind of over. And I hope he gets another shot somewhere to do this again, but I don't think he's the answer for these White Sox guys. I really don't. And if your big argument is, well, he came up with Giolito. Well, Giolito kind of sucks. And he's got an ERA around 6.5. I know you can go to the FIP. His FIP is okay. But this is a guy who a couple of years ago, we were talking about being a Cy Young contender. And now we're just like, oh, it'd be nice if he could be a reliable three.
One thing that's never come up, you talk about Giolito and Katz, of course, they go back to Giolito's high school days. Is Giolito put on all that weight for 2022 and fell apart as a pitcher? I never heard much discussion, or any discussion at all, about whether the team had encouraged that, or whether that's something that Lucas did on his own. Whether Katz had any role that, if you get stronger, you'll last deeper into games or whatever it may be. I never heard any mention of what the team.
But if that's the case, and if Katz is doing his job, that should have been, okay, Lucas, you can get stronger, but it all needs to be on the lower half. Because coming back with the big chest and the big shoulders, when has that ever helped a pitcher? I mean, look at Randy Johnson, look at Chris Sale. These are strong guys, but they did not succeed because they had bulging chests and shoulders and biceps. Nothing in the history of pitching has told you. If having a bulging bicep meant that you were a better major league pitcher, Jimmy Cordero would have been the best pitcher in the history of baseball, because he showed you his bicep every game, and that guy still couldn't get it done. So I think Katz has, whatever the experiment is, it has run its course. It's not working. If I were the White Sox at this point, I would let Katz go in a very friendly way. I would recommend him to other ball clubs, but I would bring in someone who is really, really strict and really, really hard. I mean, they need a guy who's going to come in and just kind of kick their butts about this stuff. Because right now we are just seeing no good signs. We are seeing no good signs that this pitching staff is going to be worth anything this year. Cease, again, is fine, but I'm certainly not seeing a scenario where Cease is even in consideration for the Cy Young at this point. And I think it's time we let him go. It's not going to happen anytime soon. We know the White Sox hold on to these coaches until they die. But I'm hoping.
Could it be that the Spider Tack, the attack on Spider Tack, affected the White Sox more than other teams? Were we using it more than not specifically Spider Tack, but more goop? I
would say that, except look at Garrett Cole. Look at Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole his whole body was covered in Spider Tack a couple years ago. He's out there throwing complete games for the Yankees, throwing 99 miles an hour. So, like, these can't be just on one thing. Everybody was using Spider Tack. Everybody was using it. So, if the answer is that the White Sox were only good when they could use Spider Tack, so be it. But we need to figure out how they can be good without Spider Tack.
That would be important, yes.
The without Spider Tack experiment has a full season sample size now. So it's not like we're looking at, oh, well, maybe they're still getting used to no Spider Tack. No, we've that ship has sailed. That can't be it. We are out of time for this week, though, but let me hear if you have any final thoughts before we head to the ballpark.
Well, we're going to the game. It should be interesting to see what it feels like in the park, and what I think will be a pretty empty park. And as you say, we're going to be watching mostly the second string, although the Sox have the day off the next day, so it may not be as much so for them as for the Phillies. But we'll see. It probably depends on how this doubleheader goes. With the shorter games, maybe it won't use everybody up, but probably use up most everybody. And we have our 27th man who walks a guy an inning. So
which is the only saving grace for tomorrow, is that these games today are shorter. Because I'll be honest, if they had to play 2 9-inning games today against the Phillies, oh my goodness, I don't know that there would be a live arm left for tomorrow's game.
Oh yeah, I was. Aren't they short this year? Are they 7 innings?
Oh, are they back to 9? I thought they had gone.
There was something in the discussions preseason. Hold it. Hang on. Stay there.
I know that minor league had gone. Some of the minor leagues had gone back to 7. Had done 7. But yeah, actually, I think you might be right. I think the major league games might be back to 9-inning doubleheader. If that's the case,
I thought it went back.
If that's the case, I am looking forward to Hanser Alberto throwing 3 innings tomorrow.
No, he can't. He's on the IL. We've lost our reliever. Yeah,
so
we're back to 9 innings. And we went back to 9 innings last year.
Oh my goodness! And Leori, we don't have that ace in the bullpen anymore either. So I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I don't. That's a good point. And the other one, Josh Harrison, is with the Phillies now. They've got their guy.
So they've got a closer.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just looking brutal. All right, that is all the time for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited to go to the ballpark tomorrow anyway, just to see what happens, just to get the vibe in the stadium. If you tune in, we will be starting in the 8th row, and probably by the end of the 2nd, we will be in the front row. And probably by the end of the 8th, one of the 2 of us will be pitching. So it should be an exciting game. Thanks so much. You better, with that rotator cuff surgery. So we'll talk about shortening that delivery before tomorrow's game. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you next time on Sharing Sox.